to episode 26 of the Irish Fitness Podcast. Today's guest is Mr. Chris Hinshaw. Chris is a long-time trainer and coach of some of the greatest athletes in our sport. He's also an accomplished athlete himself in his own regards. Has competed in many Ironman and really knows his stuff when it comes to dialing in that endurance side of our sport. As I said, he's been a coach now for a good few years to a lot of our top athletes in the sport and has really helped them take things to the next level in terms of that. Chris, how are you, buddy? How's things?
Yeah, no, I'm well. It's so good to be able to catch up with you again.
Yes, 100%, man, 100%. For anyone that doesn't know, Chris helped us out last year with the 400s workout. We called it the Hinshaw 400s in honour of you. We had to slightly modify it because of the chip timing. But it turned out a fantastic event, didn't it, Shane?
Yeah, literally one of my favourite events I've ever done, I think, by competing in CrossFit over the last few years and get to kind of throw down with some really top athletes in it as well and kind of up that, and you can see that it did separate kind of the best runners, which is the goal of Chris's program and a lot of the time, I think, as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. We had a great fun with it, and it was a great crowd favourite as well. Some of the athletes actually said it was their favourite event, Chris, over the weekend, so thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. That event, what was really also, it was good for the athletes, but it was good for, like you said, the fans. The fans, it's important that they're involved in these competitions, and a lot of times when these events run, all the athletes just merge together and you have no idea who's in front, who's in the middle. But when you look at events like that, it's very obvious and they're actively involved and the environment changes. And that's a really important thing for, competition directors to really take a look at in their events. You have to involve the fan.
I 100% agree. I think, sport is sport, but without the fans, it's a completely different animal, isn't it? If you think of an athlete going out and competing and stuff like that, how much more of a push do we get when people are watching us? Even in the gym and stuff, when you're training and someone could just pass by, or they might be just even a little glance your way and you'll instantly pick it up, you know what I mean? It gives you that extra energy, and that's really compounded then with the fans, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Spot on with that. We saw that actually, what's interesting is that right now, because there's no live competitions going on anywhere. No matter what sport it is. And the fan is right now starved. And it's fascinating to watch the feedback of the fan towards the Rogue Invitational. It is the fan that is commenting about the creativity, the geniusness of it, the applause. This is the time right now, if you're putting on a competition, to showcase to the world that experience for the fan, because they're starved for it. Right now they are starved, and you can create something that will stand the test of time right now, because people need that.
Absolutely. We weren't sure if we could run the Irish Fitness Championships this year here in Ireland. We had planned on doing it in July, but we had to put it back obviously to the end of August, and it's the only competition as far as I can see, definitely in Ireland in the functional fitness realm, and possibly in Europe as well, Shane, is it?
Yeah, like Chris said there, you kind of hit the nail on the head. We're starved for competitions now. So it was really kind of, I think for the Irish community, I know you won't be involved in the Irish community as probably me and Tom, Chris, but from what I've seen, everything got called off within about a month, would you say? Ireland's after booming with CrossFit competitions, functional fitness competitions, even runs and races and stuff like that, and strongman events. It's after booming last 2 years, and everything within a month got called off, and it didn't matter what time frame. Whereas Tom, obviously, runs the IFC, just took kind of a sip, kind of sat back and was like, wait, let's just see what the government says about this and what we can allow. And even if we're not allowed to have those fans involved, there's still a way to get competitions on, because I think it'll always be there for athletes and fans that something is on. And you touched a bit on the Rogue Invitation there as well, Chris. I just want to get your opinion on. For me, I thought it was a phenomenal way of doing a competition. From the outside in, it seems like an online competition. I don't think I really want to see that, or I don't want to see a lot of athletes on Zoom or on Facebook Live competing. But What did you think of the test overall? Did you think they test the athletes well? And it's not something where you can do a lot of endurance with it either, which is like a huge part of, I suppose, testing athletes right now. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly not a well-rounded test. I mean, they weren't able to because of the structure of it. I think they tried, but no, it was missing a lot of different elements, which, you know what, honestly, for me, it didn't matter. It was the creativity, the innovation of it. It really showcased that you put on a remote program, a competition, and make it world class. I mean, it was really incredible what they put on. It had to cost them numbers that are staggering because it was all brand new content. It was brand new. I do know because I watched Haley Adams do hers, and the amount of coordination that went into that, the planning. I mean, they were doing weekly 3-hour Zoom calls with the teams of people. What was also amazing is all of that equipment was sent to every participant by Rogue, and Rogue let them keep it. They all kept it. Which, just the equipment.
Yeah, that separates a certain type of brand from everybody else. I think when Rogue put their name on something, it's going to be quality. Like when they did the Rogue Invitational for the first time in, was it 2018, 2019? When they had the first sanction. Like that was like the CrossFit Games. It was like a mini CrossFit Games. It was run so well. The test is always up for debate on what the test is, but you know if Rogue are doing something like, I think they even sent out judges, if I'm not mistaken. They flew judges out to people's houses. So like someone like Noah Olsen had his own judge for a week.
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
It's not just your friend judging it. You know, it's like the Open or something. It's literally you're sending a judge. And I think it might show as well. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, and they gave $1,000 to every gym for the inconvenience. Just that alone. But here's the biggest thing, like when we were talking about the equipment. Why would they do that? Yeah. Well, one of the potential risks would be is that some outlier is going to accuse, that D-ball doesn't weigh 100 pounds.
Yeah, that's true.
And so how do you control that? Well, we're going to eliminate any of that by providing all of this equipment. So by standardizing all the equipment and reducing the risk of having equipment modified, right? So like for the CrossFit Open, how do you know a wall ball really weighs 20 pounds and it's not like filled with lighter stuffing? You don't know. And so Rogue, in order to do this, that decision to send out equipment to all the participants so that there would be no accusations of modified equipment is an incredible decision. I mean, the magnitude where they were making choices is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, you gotta give them respect, really respect.
And it's not as if they made like a big subscription service out of it and charged people. That was all literally, I'm not sure the finance obviously, but you said it was like, you would guesstimate that it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they did,
over $1 million to put that on.
I'd say so, yeah, you're probably right. And theoretically, there was no like instant back pay from them. I know they're solidifying their name in the game, not that they need to because they're already kind of top brand.
They're top dogs,
and CrossFit as well. But I think that to do that speaks volumes for Rogue and their commitment to to making things good for the athletes, I think.
Yeah, and it was let's face it, I mean, with all the things that are going on in the sport, it was a really timely break, and we needed that. I wish they were doing another one this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. What's it like over there? What's the atmosphere in the community like over there, Chris? I'm a member in a few of the affiliate groups, and I know there's a lot of confusion. There's kind of two sides on everything. Because obviously we have dedicated our lives to this brand that we love and to this way of living that we love. It's not just about a few letters in a word. It's about a lifestyle and about a community and all that kind of stuff. What's your take on the way things are at the moment over there?
Yeah, so one of the things that's for me really interesting is that people have opinions, and I do like that. And one of the things that our community has is passion. We really do. And so is it a surprise that people are passionate one way or the other? And we shouldn't be surprised by that. It's one of the things that makes our community great. And I love the fact that people have their opinions. I really, the thing that concerns me though is that we are taking and the things that are happening from Glassman and all the negative press that's happening and surfacing, and it's getting combined with the name of CrossFit. These are two separate things. The brand itself of CrossFit is a beautiful brand with an amazing community. I mean, let's face it, it is the community that created the movement. That's where it happened. I mean, you yourself have legitimized the sport. Your personality, your behavior, your lifestyle has made it credible. You've put a check in the positive side of the equation. Same with me. And so it's us that have created, you know, that brand and the beautiful things that are associated with it. I don't want to make where one person's actions are tainting that brand, because it shouldn't be that way. And so that's where I really hope that the public is recognizing it's an individual and not the brand and the people behind the brand, because the community, whether you're talking about the affiliate owners, the athletes in competitions, or the educators, you know what, there is incredible, some of the best. I'll just tell you, these moments in this sport, and I've been in it since 2008, it's the highlight of my life. The happiest moments that I've ever had in my entire life happened from 2008 on. And yeah, just genuinely grateful. And I want to see that selfishly. I want to have more of those times.
I agree, Chris. I think for me personally, I started in 2009. I became an affiliate owner in 2010. And like most people that come across CrossFit, if you're in it for a while, there was an instant love, wasn't there? Like you literally fall in love with it. I can remember just doing my first few sessions and begging to get into the classes. I did my first one-to-one, you know, you had to do 3 of them, and I begged the coach to leave me into the class so I could get in there as soon as possible. I couldn't believe, I thought I was fit because I had trained in martial arts for years, and I had spent 3 months in Thailand in the Thai boxing camps over there and stuff like that. And I went to Australia then, and within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the workout, I was there, wow, this is what I should be doing, this is what I need to do. And you know, that continued obviously for the last 11 years. And I've always been proud of the community and the brand and, you know, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. You know, it does change people's lives and stuff. And then all this madness just went boom, you know, things were stressful enough with the coronavirus around and the COVID and stuff. And then this thing happened, and I'm like sitting back. I think I woke up on maybe the Sunday morning, and there was all this stuff on the affiliate groups and all that, and then Morning Chalk started delivering articles and people were doing videos and that, and I just couldn't understand. But it was like the whole world was caving in or something, you know what I mean, from an affiliate point of view, because I based my whole life on it and my lifestyle and my livelihood, you know, and I just couldn't believe what was going on, because, you know, one person could affect so many people that much in a good way starting off, and in the complete opposite, in a negative way down the line, you know. And it's still very confusing for me. It's very confusing.
Yeah, me too. I think that there's a couple of good things in the sense that it's really making people. So like when you said about when you got your start, what's amazing about the sport is that you went into a class and the class, what you did in that particular moment, it made you reflect on who you were. And you, by attending one class, you changed your entire trajectory. It resonated so strongly with you. And that's what I see is like, what a mistake if one person and their horrific actions, and let's face it, it was a lifestyle for that man. are going to have an effect where other people may not experience what I experienced, what you experienced. I think the second thing that like what you said, which I completely agree on, is like it's forcing people right now to evaluate the sport and what it's done for them, and it re-strengthens their passion. It makes them really, instead of taking it for granted, it's like, we need to fight for this thing. We need to protect it as a community because it resonates with me. I'm not talking about like your brick and mortar and all of that and your business. It's about, I want to protect me because I like the feeling and what it has done for me. It's really, that's where the core is. And it's healthy for people to just get a reset of like, this is something I really want to fight for. And I think a lot of people historically have just sat back and taken it for granted. Yeah. Like it's always going to be there. And if something's you feel that passionate about that strongly, you know what? You gotta speak up, you gotta defend it, you gotta protect that brand name, you gotta keep the community coming in so they can experience what you did.
Absolutely. And like obviously there's a lot of confusion, a lot of uproar, there's many different opinions on things, and there's sides that none of us agree with what Glassman has said or done. None of us agree that that's right, but some people are saying that we should completely disassociate with CrossFit, and then there's the other side of the camp where we're saying, right, we should try and preserve the name and preserve the affiliations and stuff like that. In terms of like affiliates, I'm sure you would know plenty of them. What's the general consensus in America? I've seen a lot of people de-affiliate, but then there's another 13,000 or whatever who haven't maybe made a decision yet. Would you have talked to any of the major affiliates or anything like that? We'll talk about the games athletes in a few minutes, but in terms of like the major affiliates, would you have talked to any of the guys?
Seems like Rich is on the fence as well.
So I've talked to a lot of affiliates, and here's the thing, affiliates. There's many affiliates in the United States that have been around a long, long time. And so part of it is that you have to recognize that back in the day when there weren't many affiliates, the level of support that they received from HQ was dramatically different than the level of support that a new affiliate gets today. So they see those changes. And they've always been fighting for changes. For example, when Glassman got rid of media, the issue is who's going to backfill the people that leave the gym? I mean, we're all fighting for retention. I fight for retention in terms of online programming athletes, and brick and mortar fight for retention for their membership. So when people leave for whatever reason, how are you going to backfill it with no media? That was a very hard pill to swallow, considering, that was one of the main things that CrossFit and Glassman believed in was content. And so when those things happen, it just builds over a series of time. And when I talk to my friends over in Europe that are relatively new affiliates, they don't have perspective in that way. And so that's what makes it really challenging, is that because there's so many new affiliates that have come in the last 3 years, they just don't know the history of what it used to be like. And so, that's why this saying, death by 1,000 cuts. Some affiliates have had 1,000 cuts, and they've just taken it, and it's time where it's like, you know what? I just can't do it because I don't see any end in sight. This is going to happen again and again. And there's that old saying that if somebody does something wrong one time, you can forgive them, but if they do it again the second time, it's like, shame on you.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's what makes it challenging. The thing that I really struggle with is the divide. I really, if I was an affiliate owner, I struggle with it, because here they are, they're fighting COVID, and trying to keep their doors open, and now they're having to make these decisions. And my feeling is I would not rush on making my decision. I would make sure that you have all the facts. You know, this latest accusation in the New York Times and Andy Stump, that is a very, it's an interesting situation in the sense that how deep did this perversion go? You know, and that may matter. That may matter. If it was a culture and the highest up people in the organization participated in that. And that's yet to be seen. And so making decisions without all of that information, that's where that worries me some. You know, for me, I sit in the educational side, and I see there's a lot of struggle between athletes and affiliate owners, which I completely understand. I do feel some relief that I'm on the educational side. You know, the educational side is something where, as a coach or, you know, content, both the affiliate is interested in that value and the athlete is interested in that value. And yeah, it makes it a little easier for me. But to be honest with you, I'm not on Instagram anymore. I can't do it. I can't sleep at night. That's how much it hurts me inside.
I bet. I'm the same. I switched off the notifications on Facebook. There's affiliate owner groups, and every post is just lines and lines and lines, and from both sides. And I understand both sides because I'm on both sides. You know what I mean? I'm on the side of Jesus. This shouldn't have happened in the first place. That man shouldn't have said what he said or did what he did, and then delving into the other side. But then there's the other side of, okay, we are a community and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Do you think the measures that they've set out there with the regional representatives, do you think that will go any way to mending what's going on, or do you think that he needs to sell for things to truly move on?
That's really a tough question. You know, I think that Dave Castro has his own motives and his own interests, and I think that Dave Castro, if he was truly free to be making decisions, he would do things that would appeal to the athletes and the affiliate. Let's face it, Dave Castro loves the CrossFit Games, and he has made it into a worldwide event. That's not a spectacle. It's not a circus act. It is a true test of fitness. And he made it in a way that appealed to people live seeing it, and then the audience sitting and watching it back home. And he created a massive marketing machine around it. Let's face it, the biggest growth in the sport occurred because of what Dave Castro did. He brought people in the door. And the issue is that we know Glassman hates the CrossFit Games. He backslapped Dave and put him in a baby chair and told him to just keep quiet and suck on the binky. That's what he did, and Dave, for reason, did it. So the concern is that if Dave doesn't have the flexibility to show his greatness, to showcase what his passion is, and he is always told to sit at the kids' table, then those things will never surface. It will always just be backburnered, and then what progress have we made? But that's where there's this gray area, and you know what? We don't sit in those meetings. We have no idea what is happening, and that's why I don't want to speculate on it, because I sincerely hope that Dave has, and he is getting, this level of authority, because if he does, we're going to go into another boom.
I think so. I think you're right. I think
just one thing on where I think people are sitting in, like there might be two different camps here now of what's going on, and all over the world in CrossFit of, okay, I want nothing to do with the CrossFit name, CrossFit Inc., CrossFit HQ. I want to join, there's people now, Royal Docks in London, who are a huge gym. The guy owns that, started his own functional fitness union, I think it's called, and there's gym already 40 gyms have joined that. So there's that camp, and then there's the camp I think me and Tom might fall into a bit more of, like, let's sit back and see what plays out here. You know, as an affiliate or as someone, I'm a coach of CrossFit. I don't want to see CrossFit just go down the drain, and maybe Ben Bergeron was one of the first to go out the door, and people saw that, they were kind of, oh Jesus, the way to follow Ben Bergeron because he's such a leader. But to the point you made, Chris, I think people are kind of thinking now, okay, there's like a table of people here, and they're not really changing much, they're just changing seats at the table. So Glassman is still at the head of the table, but they're just putting in Dave Castro to make it look like it's not Glassman anymore, and then Justin Berg will slot into that Games thing, you know, and then it'll all trickle down, I'm sure, into the level 1 training staff and stuff like that. So people are, I think, now are really struggling with the idea of like, but he's still the owner. Yes. At the end of the day, that's the point to say. And I would agree with that as well, you know. So.
And we lost Nicole Carroll. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. That's you know, Nicole Carroll.
You know, she really is like. I've only been in this 3 years now, but I know that's a pillar in the community. You know, that of like.
Did you talk to her, Chris? Do you know her to talk to, or did you hear anything about that?
I mean, so I haven't spoken to her. I mean, but you know, I just want to give her some space. But I will, because you know the reason why I partnered with CrossFit back in 2016 is because of Nicole Carroll.
Okay.
Nicole Carroll is without a doubt the strongest pillar in the sport. I mean, she is driving a level of legitimacy across the educational platform, and it makes CrossFit credible. It makes the trainers credible. It gives these affiliate owners access to content that is usable in their gym. And without that, she's not a replaceable person because she has this credibility and history. She knows what they've created and the things that she did not create and the reasons behind it. You know, she specifically, she attended my aerobic capacity course in 2015, January of 2015 at CrossFit Roots. And right after I finished, she came up and she said to me, she says, that was one of the finest presentations that I've ever seen. And she said, I really want you to be a part of what we're doing at CrossFit HQ. And the purity, the genuineness of what she was saying, it was like, it really resonated with me. It really it made me feel good for where I was. And there is not another single person, with the exception of the guy by the name of Eric Preston, who runs the specialty courses, that said what you've delivered is exceptional. And my courses always sold out when I was a partner at CrossFit. They always never had complaints, always positive reviews, but it was only Nicole and Eric that came back and said, you know what you're doing is something special, and we're happy that you're part of this family. That is something that is important to tell people, whether you're an athlete, an affiliate owner, or an educator, that you are important to us. We value you being a part of this family. And I just don't talk to people that hear that ever. Yeah, I mean, if I was in sales before, 25 years in sales in Silicon Valley.
What are you, Chris?
High level executive sales.
Did you do like computer stuff? Is it IT stuff?
I did. Well, so it's interesting. What I did is I worked for a $600 million company, and what we made were power cords and like cable assemblies that go into a variety of products. So like Apple Computer was an account. So you know the wall socket that you plug into the wall, and then the cord that you plug into your phone.
Yes. Oh, okay.
I sold them 220 million of those. So from a sales standpoint, could you imagine if you never told Apple Computer that we value your business?
Yeah, it's great.
I mean, that is just the basic, like. And when's the last time that's happened?
Mm-hmm. The only, again, I've been an affiliate for, it will be, I'm in my 10th year, but it will be 10 years, 10 full years in October. And we always joke about the Christmas cards, the affiliate Christmas cards they send out. So we get a Christmas card every January or every February from CrossFit, and that's the only communication. Everyone will be laughing, all the affiliates know, probably maybe in America they get delivered a bit sooner.
Merry Christmas, it was more money.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, it's February, Merry Christmas for the last year. So we always joke in the affiliate community that it's the most expensive Christmas card that you'll ever get. You know what I mean? It's $2,000 a year for me personally. I know it's $3,000 now, but I pay $2,000. But it's a pretty fucking expensive Christmas card, I tell you what.
I think people were almost searching for a reason, because we spoke to some affiliate owners in Ireland, and it's like they were starting to, maybe in the last 2 years or so, they were thinking, do I really need CrossFit in front of my name?
Yeah.
And now something like this happens, like, oh, I'm going to get rid of it. They were just looking for a reason. And now it's almost like the death of Greg Laskin. You know, it's like it's almost like everything's falling around them, and everyone's just kind of abandoned ship. Whereas before, we're kind of like, you know, everyone was kind of half on their mind as a affiliate owner. Do I really need the backing of CrossFit and the do this in the community? You know, so. We saw that.
We saw that with COVID, right? A lot of people that their business was struggling used COVID to close their doors. And I mean, people don't like to acknowledge that they just didn't have a successful business plan. They just weren't ready. And so they took advantage of COVID and said, you know, I would have stayed open, but, you know, because of COVID, I can't. And now this is a good reason. So a lot of the people, I think, that are de-affiliated, they were thinking of disaffiliating, you know, prior. And this just makes it easy. This makes it easy for people.
I agree. I think 3 or 4 of the affiliates in Ireland that I know of who did de-affiliate were already, they had one foot out the door. You know, so it's like you said, 1,000 cuts. You know what I mean? It's a small little few things, and it's built up over time and stuff. Chris, on the first weekend of August, we were due to have the CrossFit Games. What are you thinking? Is it going ahead? Is it going to be cancelled? What do you think? I know a lot of top athletes now have denounced it and they're definitely not going. Our national champ, Emma McQuaid, I'm sure you know Emma, she was like 16th in the Open, I think.
Yeah.
So she qualified obviously for that top 30 or whatever it is. She has said just publicly the other day that she's taking a stand and she's not going. What are you thinking? Do you think it'll go ahead?
Well, there's a couple of things. So Dave, if he can put it on, he's absolutely going to put it on. You know, there's a belief that CrossFit HQ has created these personalities. You know, they believe that you know, these people wouldn't be around with this notoriety if it wasn't for them. I don't believe that's true. I think that's silliness. But that is how they feel, which means to me that these athletes, if they don't want to come, then we're going to go to number 31 on the list. Oh, you're out? Okay, we're going to go to 32. To them, it doesn't matter at all.
Do you think that will happen? Do you think they'll backfill and go down through the numbers?
Just because the way in which they value these athletes, that, you know, there's this belief that they created them, and without CrossFit HQ, they would be a nobody.
If they did do that, if they did just go right 31, 32, 33 and keep going, and they got all their 30 or 40 athletes, that would be a very definite statement on how much they value the opinions of the athletes, wouldn't it? That would speak volumes.
But that's where the disconnect is. You know, the disconnect is that there should be a level of respect and appreciation and valuing them. And if you're just like substituting names, it's like, wow, you had Katrin, and now you're now 200 deep, and it's like, what? Like, why wouldn't you want to fight to have a Katrin involved and involve her in conversations? Katrin, we really want you there. What are some of the things that we can do? And start this communication, start this dialogue. And my worry is like, it's just substituting names. And it's like they're just trying to get a number. That would really, that really bothers me. It's the same thing with the affiliates, you know, running sales for 25 years. Why on earth would you ever let somebody turn in their affiliate fee? I mean, why would you ever? If they're in financial hardship, the cost of finding a new customer is incredibly expensive. Why would you ever allow that to happen? You would do everything to fight for that customer, but that's the culture. They're not thinking as a business. They're thinking, oh, I'm going into CrossFit Health, and if you know what, affiliates have a problem with it, I don't care. I'll go down to 5,000 and then rebuild. It's like, what? There's no business that would do that to their customer base. The core of your business is the customers, and you want to build and retain. And if a customer is having issue, we have to have dialogue. And so that's one issue I have. The other is California is a mess. You know, if we look at COVID, California's posted their highest positive tests yesterday. It was a record. They're right now in their peak. It is not slowing down. And so Gavin Newsom, who is very liberal governor, he loves power. He wants to, and he thinks everybody is, you know, stupid and they can't make decisions. And so he feels compelled to share his expertise, which he has zero, to flex his muscle and tell people what to do. I don't see, if this progression continues, how you can have a large group of people in a gathering like that in California. I just don't see it, because their numbers are not slowing down. You know, when CrossFit announced doing the games, you know, in that first weekend in August, they had a third of the numbers of positive tests that they do today. Okay. And so I just don't see how they're going to assemble, even if it's outdoors, that many people in a group.
That's quite a jump then, isn't it? And are the gyms over there, are they open yet, Chris, or are they still locked, or what's going on? The business is open.
So they're opening it by counties, and so it really depends on which county you're in. Like I spoke with Jason Khalipa, and his gyms are opening up. They're allowed to open up this coming week. But the problem is that they're coming forward with all of these regulations in terms of numbers of people. And one of the things about Jason Khalipa, he has more experience in running affiliates than anybody in the world. You know, with his relationships and business partnerships, he had 22 affiliates. He had over 5,000 people doing CrossFit. And so when you look at those kinds of numbers, Jason knows how to run a CrossFit business and optimize it, meaning optimizing in terms of the size of the space, the type of equipment, coaches, and he has truly optimized his gyms to be, you know, maximize positive cash flow. Now all of a sudden, his class size that's been optimized of, let's say, 24 people and one coach, the state is coming in and the county regulations, it's like, you know what? You're only allowed to have 8. Well, the whole business model is shot. So that's where he is presented with a whole set of unknowns, that how do you make that type of business fly?
It's worrying times ahead. Over here we have to do a 2-meter distancing. So it's basically 6 foot, I think. And we have to map out the gym there. We're in it at the moment. We have to have all our boxes and all that. You probably saw plenty of them around. But we can do it. We can put up we have a big space area, so you can put up to 50 people at a time inside, as long as you have the social distancing and the hygiene recommended. But it would be a nightmare for, like you said, for if you can only fit a certain amount of people in a gym. We had Jason on there a few weeks ago, and he was talking about his gyms. This is before the whole CrossFit thing broke, but he's a total businessman in that sense. I told him we were doing car park classes, and he laughed at me and he said, "Oh my God, you know, we're doing car park classes until we can get back inside." He said, "I wouldn't even do that," which I thought was hilarious. But I'd say, yeah, I would imagine that it's going to be very difficult times ahead in places like California, that you can only put a certain amount of people in. You know, that smaller space or whatever. It's very worrying times, isn't it? Very worrying times for the affiliates. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, that's why you wonder about the attrition rate of the affiliate. You know, that even if they make it through, then I mean, I think that there's still more hard road ahead, and that's, the virus isn't going away. I mean, it's going to survive through the summer, and it's going to go back into the winter again, and so. How are you going to survive? That's why I tell affiliates, you know, you really need to start looking at your business model. And, you know, you talk to affiliate owners about Zoom classes and they hated them. they're like, I'm dumping them as soon as I possibly can. And it's like, but you know what? If it comes back, your members are not going to tolerate you now all of a sudden doing a crappy Zoom class. You should have fixed that class and figured out how to run a good one as a second offering in your gym, because that may be something that's required, meaning you have an offering like Khalifa. If he can only take 8 people in a class, then how's he going to deal with the rest of his membership base? You have to find a way to create content to keep them.
I agree.
And so, yeah, if you're not capable of running a Zoom class as an affiliate owner, that is a limitation. And your competitor down the street has just found their advantage over you, and they're going to steal your people.
100%, I agree. We have found we actually really enjoyed the Zoom classes, and we loved them, and so did our members.
Good.
For the time that they were locked in, we emptied the gym basically. We gave out every piece of equipment, gave it out to all the members, and like 95% of them stayed with us then and kept paying our membership. And some of them now are training more than ever. Like we have a few of the girls with kids and stuff like that. One of the girls trains with our baby in her arms every day, doing her squats, doing the Zoom and stuff like that. Then there's other people who can't make it to the gym as often. So we're actually going to keep one daily Zoom and Facebook Live class a day when we get back to normal and stuff. And it suits them, you know what I mean? Shane is one of our up and coming athletes here in Ireland. And he just wanted to ask some questions and get some advice off of you about what you would advise, the up and coming athletes coming up in the sport of CrossFit. Shane?
Yeah, Chris. So, like, to be honest with you, getting the opportunity to talk to someone like you is pretty that's I'm going to nerd out a bit. I have to. So, I've been following the sport since I've been in it, and you're obviously one of the pillars in the sport of in terms of being such an authority of endurance, I'd say. And obviously you're a well-rounded coach, but you've brought numerous athletes to the games. You've got on the podium, winning the games. I think a lot of things people notice that most of these athletes aren't natural runners or endurance or aerobic capacity athletes. So we have people like Fraser, Froning, Khalifa that you've kind of brought from being just like a brute weightlifter to maybe just winning some running events like Fraser did. But what advice would you give, say, a young athlete that's coming into the sport, wants to be competitive, has absolutely no endurance background, maybe some weightlifting, maybe some bodybuilding, maybe has the physiology, but needs to start somewhere in terms of getting some miles on the road or being on the rower or the bike? Do you have some advice for someone like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what everyone has to recognize that is in the sport of CrossFit is that you must look at your entire structure, your entire body, and ask yourself, what am I leaving behind? What muscle groups am I leaving behind? What muscle fibers am I leaving behind? Meaning I'm not training them. And so if you take an athlete like a Fraser, one of the things that, when we started working together at the end of 2014 was, this is a guy that does short time domains, very high loads. He's obviously very strong. But if we look at his slow twitch fibers, his aerobic fibers, the fibers that help you recover, he wasn't overloading those fibers, meaning you have to overload a fiber with a stimulus in order to create an adaptation. Well, your fast twitch fibers, in order to overload them, they don't need a lot of volume. But your slow twitch fibers, they need volume to overload them. I mean, here's the thing is that if you think about it, your fastest of the fast twitch fibers, the fibers that you use for a 1 rep lift, they're fatigued after that 1 rep. That's why you can't do 2 of them. And so if you then go all the way to the other end of the scale, your walking intensity, how long can you walk for? Well, a long time. Why? Because those fibers, those slow twitch fibers, can endure. So if you want to create adaptation in any muscle fiber group, you have to overload it. Well, based upon that principle, you have to do more volume. You have to do more volume in order to overload those fibers. And since your slow twitch fibers aren't your speed or your power high force fibers, how should you train them? By just focusing on time at a lower intensity. Build up that lower intensity volume. And here's what people don't understand is that They think, oh, running is going to hurt my strength. First of all, every top athlete that has won the CrossFit Games, they have a 2-time per week running program. And every athlete that has won the CrossFit Games in that 2-time per week running program has openly acknowledged they've gotten stronger. So the reason is because the concern, it's this interference effect. If you do too much of one thing, it will interfere. Meaning if you do too much running, it will interfere with your strength, which is absolutely true. But the first thing that a scientific community will say is, we don't know how much is too much. What I did is I found out what is an optimal amount, how much you should do in order to overload those fibers and actually complement your strength. So when you think about a heavy lift and you want to get stronger, when that lift is heavy, your brain recruits all of your available fibers, all your slow and all your fast. Well, most of the lifts that you do, you're standing, right? You're standing on your feet like you do when you run. Well, if you've never optimized or developed those standing fibers, right, then they're not going to be available to you in making that lift. And what we're talking about is the percentage of those available fibers in that 1-rep lift and the rate of recruitment of those slow twitch fibers to make that lift occur. If you have done training that actually increases the percentage recruitment and the rate of recruitment, now those fibers are available to you in those lifts. And that's why every one of those athletes are stronger. The key, though, is creating a balance. And most athletes that I come across, don't understand the importance of focusing on a lower intensity and focusing on volume. And so by that, you know what? The average person who has 50% slow twitch fibers and 50% fast twitch fibers, basically they've left 50% of their arsenal of fitness behind. And so they're going in with half of their available capacity. And my job is to make sure that they've assessed their entire structure, their entire body, and they're not leaving anything behind.
Brilliant. Absolute knowledge bomb. Just one more thing,
Yeah,
sorry.
go over it.
Just, you kind of solidify.
Yeah, I'm going to send a real fast text. I'm going to send a fast text, real fast.
You go for it, buddy. Absolutely, Chris.
Yeah, I suppose what we're going to just touch on in a second, I can kind of reiterate with Chris, is that we have here across in Waterford, we've done a whole new structure and kind of like a U-turn on how we structure programs. So like our structure now, and this is for any coaches, affiliates, anyone who's out there listening, it is working for us. We've done it for like a month. So we swap in and out of programming for the gym. But me and one of the coaches here, David, have come across concurrent training.
There's that.
Yeah, right.
So concurrent training is essentially what you're talking about, Chris. Yeah. Basically 2 goals at once. So 1 hour in clean and jerk and aerobic capacity goal. So maybe a 5K or something like that. We've been able to restructure that for our members, and they probably don't know they're doing it, but it's scientifically backed, like the stuff you're talking about with the muscle fibers, that they're actually getting fitter and healthier, and they're improving their performance too. So hearing someone like you say that with your credentials kind of solidifies that we're doing the right things here, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful, because you want to do things that have value, but you just don't need to get into that scientific side. Like what you just said. Imagine if you're an athlete and you're lifting, you do like a heavy element, a high strength element. Well, what you're going to do in the beginning is fatigue all of those fast twitch fibers. So let's say you do a heavy squat element, and then you're going after that heavy squat element where all of their fast twitch fibers have been overloaded. Now we're going to go into, let's say, a running movement, right, afterwards. The truth is that all of their fast twitch fibers have already been overloaded. And so just because of the way in which you structured the workout, they're going to naturally go slow because the fast twitch fibers don't have any more capacity. So it is a beautiful way of structuring a workout without having to tell the athlete, this is high intensity, fast twitch, anaerobic. And then the reason why we're doing the run is we're going to actually focus on aerobic slow twitch recovery development. By the design of the workout, that will naturally happen. That's where it's genius, is that I think the greatest workouts, the greatest ones, are where the athletes aren't aware of the creativity, the genius of the workout. And you don't even point it out.
The stimulus just shows for itself. It's kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant. Chris,
Genius.
I have a question now, so a couple of questions actually. One is about one of the workouts in this year's IFC, and the other one is on more personal note. So this year, what we're going to do is we're going to do a ruck on the beach. So I've told, we're about 10 weeks out now. I've told all the athletes to have a backpack ready for the day. We're going to start off on the Friday evening. There'll be a couple of workouts before, but we're going to bring them all to a beach then on the Friday evening. And they're going to do an unspecified distance. I haven't released the distance yet. I did, everyone kind of knows it, but the beach is around about 4 miles long. And myself and Shane went down there the other day, and he had about 35 pound bag, and I had more or less a 22 pound bag. But it could be up to 50 pounds for the males, and it could be up to 35 for the females. What advice would you give all the athletes signed up? There's 90 RX athletes signed up this year, which is the biggest ever we've had in Ireland. What advice would you give them, we'll say, for a 4 mile ruck in soft sand, and they're carrying maybe 35 pounds for a female and 50 pounds for a male?
Oof, boy, that's a tough workout.
That's a doozy,
So what you always want to look at is when you get a workout and you have a rough idea of the qualities within the workout. So the qualities is the most important thing, right? So you had mentioned it's the movement of running. You had mentioned the volume. So part of it is taking that volume and equating it to total time, right? The quality of that. You also then look at the speed, the intensity of it. So this one, it's obviously you're having to move, but you have the load that you're lifting as well.
Yes.
Other qualities happen to be the environment. So it could be raining, snowing, hot, but it's also the terrain, right? So are you running on concrete? Are you running on a track? In this case, you're running in sand.
Yeah.
So what you want is that when you know the variables, you must train the variables. So one of the things that people really need to understand is the greater the frequency, the greater the amount of time that you practice those known variables, the more efficient your body comes at it. That's why we train, because the body can naturally replicate something that it's done before. And so we see that all the time in terms of pacing. Like I do a Mayhem running class, and we did a workout where it was 5 minutes of running out. We rested a minute and ran 5 minutes back. And 20 people finished within 5 meters of their finishing spot, or their starting spot. 5 minutes with just going by feel, because they've locked in that muscle memory. So what people have to recognize is you must train those qualities. So the first thing that I would do is I would be looking at the volume, and if it's 4 miles, I would equate that in terms of total time. The weight of the ruck matters. And if the weight of the ruck is unknown, meaning it's like it could be this, it could be that, then what you have to do is train a variety of different ruck weights. Because your stride length is going to be different based upon the weight of the ruck. And if you think your stride length is going to be 1 meter and it's only a half a meter, that is a totally different intensity, and you are not prepared. So a good example of that is like you take a Fraser or Froning, they train 13 different intensities in terms of running. And the reason is because every single intensity recruits different muscle fibers. So if they do a 50-pound ruck and it turns out to be a 10-pound ruck, they're not ready. They might as well have not done anything. So that's where you have to train variety. You know what? I'm going to give you something real. I'm going to give you some gold.
Brilliant.
So Froning sent me a note. And he did a workout that was a combination of 1 mile running and then 1 mile rock, 30 pounds.
Okay.
So it was 1 mile run, 1 mile rock, run, 5 miles.
Right.
His comment, I suck with the run. I mean, he says, I suck with the ruck. That was what he said. And I wrote him and I said, you know, you really need to be doing more ruck weight variations in your future workouts. Ruck running for you is tough because you are a power-based athlete without a ruck. You know, he's not finesse, he runs based upon strength and power. I said, however, running with a 30-pound ruck forces you to reduce your stride length and you begin to shuffle. This is very different than your normal running pattern. I believe you must include a variety of ruck weights in the same workouts as well as using lighter ruck weights. The key is developing your range of running form, stride length, stride frequency, and your peripheral adaptation. I recommend you targeting a weight between 0 pounds and 30 pounds because this differential is big.
That's absolute gold.
Brilliant.
I really do hope no other RX athletes listen to this. Like, keep that for myself.
Shane is going to be competing, Chris, so we might edit this bit out and keep that for him.
That's absolutely fantastic. Even that coach's feedback there, like I'm a coach as well, and I do some remote coaching. Even that coach's feedback there is like top notch.
That's top
you know,
notch.
that's nothing to be like. Rich Froning is like the Michael Jordan of our sport, and you still give him feedback, and you know he doesn't know what he's doing, which is like exactly what you need for athletes.
But that's what makes the greats great, is that there's this constant quest to learn. And as much as we as coaches say, you know, when we meet up with somebody, we don't do a Rolodex assessment. We absolutely do, and there's a variety of things. Like I'll never forget, you know, when I got to know Roman Krennikov 3 years ago, before he was like Roman Krennikov, and I'm like, this guy will do anything I tell him to do. This guy is a warrior beyond warriors. He is a soldier. It doesn't matter to him. If I told him to break through the ice and swim a mile, he'd do it. And that kind of work ethic is a very rare find. It's a rare quality, and what all of them though have in common is this quest to learn, and it's never one where they're embarrassed about certain things. They wanna understand. And one of my frustrations with athletes is like sometimes we don't communicate properly because I don't know how much they know, and so I'm trying to calibrate my knowledge with their knowledge. And if they're up here and I'm down here, there's a mismatch. And so I have to calibrate to where they are so that it resonates. And so a lot of times I'll bring up certain things and they're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And they'll just like discount it. And it's like, no. This is really important. I really need you to understand it. And if they don't, then I don't even mess around. I just, you know what, there's no more workouts coming. Because I can't. The sport is gotten to the point where if you don't pay attention to those details and you want to win, you won't even hit the podium. Never going to happen. Because who you're fighting against is a level way beyond where you even fathom.
100% agree. On a more personal note, Chris, I decided, I'm sure you've heard of David Goggins, haven't you? Of course, everyone has. So I read his book. I listened to it about 3 or 4 times, and I go back to certain chapters and stuff like that. And he talked in one of the chapters about his first ever 100-mile race, or a 24-hour race. And he decided to do it on a whim. You know, he was an Navy SEAL, and he didn't really do any training or anything like that for it. So I was thinking, I did a lot of CrossFit competitions over the years and stuff like that, and got on podiums and that, but the CrossFit competitions are not as exciting as they used to be to me, but I still want to challenge myself. So I've signed up, or I will be signing up to a 24-hour run in April. Now I've never really done it running wise. I ran a marathon once, but it was without any training. I just decided a few days before to sign up for it and do the marathon, just as a test for CrossFit. And I enjoyed it, you know, it was a tough going, but I enjoyed it. So I wanted to try this 24-hour race, and I'm doing a couple of runs a week now. What would you suggest in terms of volume for me personally? I'd love to say that I could break 100 miles. That's the goal in the 24 hours.
Well, so what I'll do is I'll send you a bunch of stuff. So this is not an uncommon question that I get. So I'll send you after this. I'll send you some ideas to think about, especially like a long run progression. But just to summarize on what you're about to do, a 24-hour effort is it's not a physical test, it's a mental test. And the problem is that most CrossFit athletes have not been tested mentally. They really haven't, because they don't do things that are long. And one of the things that's going to happen to you is that at some point in time, it is going to become very emotional for you. And the main reason is because you have never experienced what you're about to experience. You're in no man's land. And your demons are going to surface, and they're going to start really, like, that darkness will overcome. And, Brian Jean-Tosh, who is, a Marine and one of the most gnarly, this is Nicole Carroll's, better half. And he did an around the Tahoe 200-mile race, and, she calls that 120 miles, and he was crying. There's a guy crying.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you have to realize that is a normal behavior, because when you're realizing you're crying, you're like, something's wrong. You have to make sure that you're prepared to control that negative thought, because that's what's going to sink the ship. CrossFit athletes do not do enough volume, and we saw that in the marathon row. I mean, that marathon row, are you kidding? Like, that was challenging? You sat in a chair for 3.5 hours. I mean, please. I mean, I would train on my bike a 5-hour ride every week for 8 years. I mean, it was embarrassing that was so overwhelming. But the thing is that they're never tested. And the test is the negative side, right? You have to recognize that negative thought will propagate. So when you look down and you see blood in your shoe, what is your response? Well, you know what? I would feel my toenail fall off in the middle of an Ironman, and I'd feel that toenail inside my shoe. I wouldn't wear socks, I'd feel it in there, and I'd see blood. And is that one where I sit and panic, or do I sit and go, how rad am I that I am running so strong that I blow my toenail off? Like, right? Like, how legit is that?
Yes,
like,
yes.
And you just and you think, man, I wonder how many I could actually pop off in the rest of this run. That's the mindset. You have to be shifting the way in which you're thinking. So if you start vomiting, if you start, all kinds of problems, how are you going to treat those things? Because you've never experienced it before. If you urinate blood, what are you going to do? Are you going to go to medic? Or are you going to go, you know what, that's normal?
Yeah, I think it will be. I'm imagining that over the 24-hour period, my body is definitely going to do things that it doesn't normally do. Like you said, if I start pissing blood, or if I start having other ill effects, what way am I going to handle it? I'm sure
That's right.
There will be medical stuff there, but my goal is, obviously I'm going to have to stop for food and all that kind of stuff, but I'd like to think that with a little bit of training between now and April, that I can break 100 miles. I think I can. I know I can. I can.
For sure you can. What I'm going to send you is that you will break it. But what will be your downfall is, how are you going to handle the unknown? And you don't know what it is, and there's no way you can prepare for that, right? I mean, because you haven't experienced. That's why what I'm saying to you is normally the progression that people have is they do a 5K, a 10K, then they do the half, and then they full, and then they do a 50K, and then a 50 miler, and then a 100K, and then a 100 miler. And the reason why is because they're trying to train the mind. It is the mind, the demons that will surface. But I will tell you that when you do experience this, you will come out the other side with a level of perspective that will make you such a better man, because the level of compassion and understanding will be richer. And what I mean by that is that the hardship that people bring in, let's say 300 pounds, never done fitness in the last 20 years, and now they're walking in the gym, and although they're only doing a 5-minute workout, you now will have the same perspective. There will be, and it's not saying you're not compassionate now, but you haven't experienced that level of demon. You haven't. And that's why when I talk about CrossFit athletes, there's a level of adaptation that they just haven't tackled because they don't do enough volume. Could they do, 5 days? I mean, I did a 60-hour adventure race. 60 hours.
Fucking hell. What was it exactly?
We were in northern Toronto, 60 hours, a combination of canoe, mountain bike, and running. And
holy shit.
Yeah, it was brutal, but it was 60 hours. And I think about that, how many games athletes you think could do a non-stop, unbroken 13.1 mile run and then be able to train that afternoon?
Yeah. I think it's so far from Fran. Like, it's so far removed from France. Like, I can go sub 230 on Fran, yeah, but run 100 miles. It's a different level of athlete.
It really is. It's here, though.
Yeah,
it's here.
I think so. The physical realm is something that can be far transcended by the mental realm, I believe. If you have it up your head, then there's not many things that you can't do. But again, like you said, I'm envisioning it's going to be a nice few first hours. Everyone's going to be happy and all that, but I'm thinking to myself, what is it going to be like? And I'm sure you've experienced this if you did that race for 60 hours. What's it going to feel like at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's dark out and you're still forcing yourself to move forward?
No, Tom, here's what it is that you're going to be at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're tired. You're all by yourself. You're on a trail, right? You're tired. And when you're sitting there and you're going, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm miles from home, and doubt creeps in, and then you're going to say to yourself, I just want to sit down. I just am going to sit down for a little bit. That's what's going to happen to you. So that's a negative thought. I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to take a small break. And then you say to yourself, wait a minute though. If I go off the trail, I may, no one's going to see me. And I may fall asleep and actually die. I may never even wake up because you're so exhausted. So then you convince yourself, and this is how negative thought propagates. You should have never, ever said to yourself, I'm going to sit down. But now you're having this private conversation. And so what you say to yourself is, I'm going to lay down in the middle of the trail. And that way when the next runner comes, they're going to see me. And that's how it starts.
I'd say, did that kind of stuff go through your mind when you were doing this? All them, these strange voices coming in telling you do this, do that?
But that's why, so that's why I'm saying to you, what is so terrific is that you are going to emerge out the other side a significantly better person. Because, one of the things that and I'm not saying you're compassionate, but it's the level of perspective that you have. How deep is that perspective? And if you've never cried because of anxiety of being alone at 4 o'clock in the morning and questioning what you're doing and just the anxiety that you feel, okay, so you haven't had any of that perspective. That is truly something you carry back into your conversations with others. And so I feel for people on a level that I'm grateful I had all of those experiences. That's why I applaud it. I would never say don't do it because it's going to make you in a company of people that is rare.
I think so. I'm looking forward to it. I like a challenge. I've always liked a challenge, and I think this is something to set my goals on and stuff like that. And Chris,
I love it.
Obviously, you're one of the high authorities in aerobic capacity and stuff like that. How would people get in touch with you, and where would they find your programs and stuff like that? And if they wanted to sign up, how would they get involved with you?
So they can go to the website, aerobiccapacity.com. They could go, we get free workouts on the Instagram. Aerobic Capacity is the Instagram. Facebook page. We have seminars. One of the things that also they can do is, I do a lot of free type of handouts, and I would encourage the people that are listening, if there's a particular coach or something, you know, as an accessory piece that you're interested in, send them a mail. There is not a single coach right now that is not accessible. If a coach doesn't respond, then they're not a fit. But you can send a mail to info@aerobiccapacity.com and say, you know, hey, do you have anything that can help me with like a long run progression? Like, Tom, what I'm gonna send you is like an ultra progression, and like, if I have it and I've written it, I'll send it out. And so I get people hitting me up for just ideas, but I would never start someone just like blind. I would want to see, like, what are they offering to me? How is it unique, and does it fit up with, you know, what my schedule is? There's a lot of junky stuff that's out there, and so reach out and just ask. Same thing with gym owners. Gym owners post workouts, so you can see, you know, their types of offerings and how come it's a fit. And then, if I'm, same thing going into affiliate, I would sit down with the coach and want to understand their methodology. You know, the other thing, speaking of affiliates, like, and coaches, the thing that you always, excuse me, must really look at is how long have members been in a gym? How long has a coach been around? How long have their members? What's the retention? And you need to ask coaches that. That would be the very first question if I'm looking at remote programming. Tell me some people that have been in your program and what's the length of time that they've been there. So ask for a sampling and then ask them about their athletes that they work with and how long have you been working them. And so I think that that is if we look at what coaches, their accomplishments, it's retention. So like if you take like, you know, my relationship with the Katrin, I love that I've worked with Katrin, but I also love the fact that I've somehow provided her content since she was 19 years old, right? That's important. Absolutely. Those two things.
Absolutely, 100%, buddy. You've been very generous with your time with me last year with the
Thanks,
IFC, and obviously today as well. We absolutely we love you. I think you're one of the.
Thanks, man.
I think you're one of the soundest guys in the CrossFit realm, and you're an absolute gentleman as well. So I'd really, from the bottom of my heart, like to thank you for coming on the show. Shane, would you like to say a few words to Chris before we wrap it up?
Chris, thanks so much. And if you ever have time again, maybe down the line, we might have another chat, because it seems like we could literally sit here for hours and talk anything, sports, science, running.
You know that. You know, Ireland is my home away from home, so we would love to come back and always, you know, we've been there many times and it's always at the top of the list. So yeah, we should do a one-on-one sometime.
Oh, phenomenal.
Chris, that would be amazing, man. We might, when all this craziness is over. I always like doing one endurance event during the IFC, so we might even look at sometime next summer, if you are coming over. We could do one of your seminars, and then you might even be able to tie it in with the IFC, and you could program the workout as well, if that would be something you're interested in.
That would be incredible. Anytime you want to talk about workouts, my passion is writing workouts. I give away all of my knowledge.
Yes.
Because I think that what I really do is it's the programming side. Like, that's the intellectual property. And so, yeah, whenever you want to talk about workouts, that's my pride and joy.
Chris, you're an absolute legend. Much respect.
Thanks, man.
I'll talk to you after this, and then I'll get this episode later on today. But from myself, from Shane, and from all of the rest of the Irish CrossFit community, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you soon, brother. Take it easy.
All right.
Shane, you can hang that up.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, man.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a legend. Yeah. What a fucking legend. Such a down-to-earth, nice guy as well.
Yeah, he's literally, he's one of the best coaches in the world in anything. You know,
the way he went into depth there about even the rock stuff and things like that, and the voice.
That's what separates him. Yeah. You know, his time and what he gives to people. Because you you don't just get a one-word answer, Chris.
No.
You get literally a 10-minute answer.
Even like the text he was sending to Froning and stuff
yeah,
like that.
he's telling us stuff like that.
I wonder what's that text he was answering. It was it?
It could have been, yeah.
Sorry, I just answered this text, guys.
The most intellectual
What a
stuff.
fucking legend. We have to get him over. We'll bring him over for the IFC, right? The week before it, we can do the seminar here or wherever we are, and then he can come to the IFC itself and maybe announce the thing, and you know what I mean, do all that.
Brilliant.
That'd be class.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Good stuff. All right, guys, that's a wrap for episode 26. We'll see you when we see you. Us. Good job.